This is Jamie Drummond from Good Food Revolution. I'm here today once again with Cave Spring winemaker Gabriel Demarco. How are you today, sir?
Jamie, very good. Thank you for having me. Very excited to be with you again.
Now, I'm very excited to be tasting a Cave Spring wine I have never had before. This is a brand new one to me. This is the 2018 Prova H6 plus Lemon. There is the label. Quite a departure in the labels for Cave Spring as well.
Well, those are we talked a little bit ago about the CSV coming from the micro cruise, those two of those three blocks. And so we've moved the entire table wine portfolio to indigenous fermentations. And so as we've done that, as you give up control by not inoculating, you kind of always ask the question, like, how far can we push these wines and ferments before we lose the style of wine we would like? Like this, at the end of the day, we're trying to craft a style of wine that we feel is representative of the vineyards and the terroir, and also honor the loyal clientele. And how far can we push these wild ferments and oxidation and lees contact and temperatures and all these things that we do to build texture in the wine? How far can we push them before we lose the style we're going for? And so in 2018, we did the CSV Riesling, which had a component of full skin ferment, and then the rest of it was skin soaked with barrel and some stainless steel. We assembled the 2018 CSV, and we were left with two component parts: the barrel aged and skin soaked component, and the full orange wine component. And it kind of was like, well, let's find out how far we can push things and then bottle it. And so this became an exercise in oxidation. So we put the two components together in a couple puncheons, and we let flor grow on them, and let them to oxidize in a corner of the winery, and let flor grow on them, let them oxidize. I was tasting it, minimum of twice a day, because I was quite fascinated with the oxidation stability. The flor died off after a couple months, kept things going. And then after a few months in that barrel, we moved it into a stainless tank and into temperature control. Just kind of felt there was time. In hindsight, it's always 2020. I'm not sure if the exact moment of why that decision was a good one, but that's what we did. And same thing, smell, taste. And there was a point where the wine showed like oxidative stress, like it was time. It was done, right? And so we called it. I called my bottling line team, so we need to get this in a bottle, tomorrow. Tomorrow's the day. And we did. We got to bottle the next day, and we bottled it. When we bottled it was very oxidative, very sherry-like. I fielded some phone calls of people asking me like why we would make something like this and or bottle something like this. And I was fully behind the whole thing as I explained the process, what we're doing here, finding the limits of oxidation in Riesling, stylistically, what happens post-bottling. And then, 3-4 months go by, and I was sitting at a tasting before COVID, of course, and this was poured in the flight as a ringer. And I kind of picked the glass up, put my nose, and I was like, oh, that's quite pretty. Like, I wonder what wine is that, I was like, that's the Prova. Like, holy smokes, and the first thing that came in my mind was a bit disappointing. I was disappointed, like, oh man, this was supposed to be, wild and wonky, and it's actually quite pretty, but then I realized just a moment after, I was like, oh, we've learned something here. We're not going to push the CSV this far, of course, nor are we going to use this much skin ferment. This is 50-50, give or take.
Right.
But we don't have to fear oxygen as much as we thought, because this wine, which was pushed in my professional opinion to the kind of the brink of death and then bottled, came back into itself and became something that is actually quite pretty. And if you take a sip, I hope you know there's like a salinity there. It didn't lose terroir, it didn't lose origin. It still very much tastes like something that came from Cave Spring.
It's interesting you say that, because quite often when one moves into orange wine territory, I often feel that the whole concept of terroir can be wiped, as well as variety, to be quite honest, sometimes.
I agree completely.
Just rewinding a second, for those people unfamiliar with the term flor, would you mind explaining that, please?
Yeah, so flor yeast is used in sherry production, and it forms. It's a fungal colony of microbes. So are yeast, right? They're fungus. They grow on top of the wine and create an oxidative barrier, which allow the wine to not die from oxidation, but also kind of effective way, but also still a flavor to the wine. And how do we do that at Cave Spring? Well, the building we make wine in is quite old, about 120 years old, I think, at this point. And there was a time in its history where they made Canadian sherry, which of course wasn't sherry, but they called it that. And so there was flor yeast here. So there are special corners of this building that I've noticed over my tenure here, which has been here just over 12 years now. And in my young days, just cellar ratting it around, I noticed that you left a wine in this corner of the cellar long enough, flor yeast would grow on it. No matter how much solvent was in it, no matter how you clean it when the wine was moved, flor would grow on it. And so having that in the back of my mind, when you want to start playing around with oxidation and texture and dry Riesling and things like that, you think, well, I'm going to maybe throw that barrel in that corner and let flor grow on it and see what happens, you know. And so we've actually used that trick a couple times. Just it never as a dominant component of a wine, but always as something like this, like the Finnish CSV, the 19 CSV, the 18 CSV, both had 2 to 4% skin fermented Riesling in it. And just to build that phenolic tone, not like you say, take away terroir, variety, origin. So something like a wine like this, getting some flor flavor, texture, mouthfeel is, I think, contributes to that, the ability for the wine to carry that phenolic energy that you get from the skin fermented Riesling.
The first thing that sticks out about this wine, once I get through the impenetrable wax seal on the top of the bottle, is the this sommelier's nightmares come around these things. Beautiful packaging, by the way. The color of the wine is quite obviously quite different from the much lighter CSV, and that comes from your vinification there. But it really, I wasn't expecting that at all. I purposely did no research on the Prova wines that we're tasting, so that it would be a new experience for me. And when I stuck my nose in here, I did get quite the shock. If you were to say that this wine was modeled upon any other style of wine in the world, or what does it remind you of? What would that be?
This is a funny question you may ask. It does remind me of sherry in a lot of ways, that like Oloroso sherry, even more than anything. Obviously, it's not that, and it doesn't look like that. More so
on the nose than the palate, I would say.
Yeah, but the thing is, the whole point of this exercise with Prova, the Prova is a series of wine we're doing where it's pushing the limits of things we're already doing in our everyday winemaking practice to see where we go. And really the whole idea behind it is to break convention. Like the whole idea is to not remind us of anything. The idea is to kind of figure out, viticulturally, figure out in a wine context what we are able to do here, and not have you drink our wine and have it remind you of anything. The whole idea is to show terroir expression that is unique, and you try it, and then you try Riesling from the Mosel and think, oh, this Mosel Riesling reminds me of Niagara, you know, rather than the other way around.
Yeah.
You know, that's the whole idea is kind of really exploring what the flavors are here. So this one is a bit of it reminds me of types of sherry that I've had in the past, but none, never precisely, if I could say that. Like nothing is identical to it.
It's interesting because, you know, it's arguably Cave Spring are one of the kind of grandfather producers of wine in Niagara, and to see that you're doing something as out there as this is just phenomenal. It's very exciting stuff, that's for sure. What has the reception to this wine been?
Well, it's been mixed, but the point was to create that conversation. So here you say that it's great. It kind of does what we want it to do, which is kind of create conversation around the brand, to create conversation around the place, because really at the end of the day, we built a brand around a place. And so, so it's great to hear you say that. And I hope that it would, knowing that this wine is an exaggerated expression of what we're doing in all of our winemaking.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of, I would hope that it would maybe revisit the CSV, or maybe I'll grab the estate Riesling tonight, you know, and have, you know, and think, oh, wow, they're doing wild ferment on this as well. And they're doing skin soaking on this as well. And they're oxidizing this. And I wonder how much they've done with the estate Riesling versus the Prova Riesling. You know, I would hope that it would beg for exploration back into the brand, knowing that it's not just with this wine, it's with the entire lineup.
With this having such a unique character, where would you see this sitting at the dinner table?
Oh yeah, this thing is man. This is something a contemplative little cookie. I like either before a meal with some just like an outrageous charcuterie board, or after the meal. To be honest, it's not cold, like room temperature after the meal. It's viscous, it's weighty, it's, you know, has like the aromatics continually evolve. So, you know, after the meal as like something to finish your dinner with too. I've really enjoyed it with that, like dried apricots, dark chocolate.
Yeah, I can see that. Now, I'm curious as to how long you think this will last once opened.
Well, once opened, I've gone 6 days, and it probably shows best on day 6.
Right.
So, yeah. So a long time. It is just table wine. So, you know, there's a limit to that. And I think if you're going to explore this wine and push its limits past opening, I think you would be someone that enjoys like the oxidative style of wine.
Yeah.
If you're looking for like a clean conventional wine, I think the CSV is still where you go, because there's nuances of this.
Yes.
CSV is very put together. But yeah, both are bone dry. It's kind of cool, right? What you can do with texture building, just by using oxygen, which is pretty cool, right? I mean,
well, thank you very much for sharing this with me today. I'm going to cork this up and see if I can serve it to someone blind in the next few days. And I don't think they will guess that comes from Cave Spring.
Well, please let me know the feedback.
Gabe, thank you very much for joining us at Good Food Revolution once again. Bye for now.
Thank you, Jamie.